So Dr. Cheyenne Bryant has been receiving a lot of backlash for her lack of credentials as a licensed therapist. Is she a therapist? Is she a life coach? Isn't it about the results? Question for my immaculate panel.
Yeah, I feel like most people are talking to ChatGPT as their therapist, and that's not a doctor either. I mean,
I was gonna say that. So on one hand, I think it is preposterous to call yourself a doctor and you do not have a PhD. I think that's disingenuous, and I think it also illegitimizes your practice and your credibility. On the other hand, if you don't have a PhD, just call yourself a life coach, or like, she's good with the English language. Think of like another title that sounds cool.
I think it's two things at play though. One, you don't need a PhD to be a licensed clinical therapist.
I was gonna say that too.
Yeah.
And you don't really need a PhD to create results, right? Like there are plenty of people, this like just unlike a lot of other industries. I'm not gonna talk, we're gonna leave like medical and those like industries out of here. But like there are people that do podcasts that share information, that are really informed, that do the work and study topics to share information with the general public, and they know what they're talking about. And then maybe they didn't go to school and get a PhD in that, like, or African American studies or history or whatever, but that doesn't mean that they don't know what they're talking about. So I don't want to completely discredit Miss Cheyenne. I just feel like don't call yourself a doctor if you don't have the doctorate's degree, and it's okay. It's okay not to have a doctorate's degree. I've listened to her speak on numerous occasions on her podcast, other podcasts, and she makes a lot of valid points, and a lot of things that she says are really positive and can be really helpful.
Here's why I would discredit her though. One, I have a Juris Doctorate, right? Mm-hmm. But I also have a doctorate, right? Mm-hmm. So I have the credentials. In certain settings, people call me Dr. White, mm-hmm. right? That's I have a doctorate. But it's almost uncomfortable for me, right, to lead with that because my name is Keith, right? That's not the doctor title thing.
It's a little too formal.
It's not even that it's just too formal. What it is, it's just a title. Mm-hmm. But actually, the thing that actually qualifies me for the work is the work,
the expertise,
and and the expertise. So as somebody who's a doctor who I went to school, I wrote a dissertation, mm-hmm. I was peer reviewed, I did the work, right. When I hear somebody call themselves or refer to themselves as a doctor, it's offensive because if you haven't done the work, if you haven't done a dissertation, or if you haven't done medical school, if you haven't done those things, right, then the title, it makes the title mean a lot less. And that's another reason why I don't run around saying, hi, I'm Dr. such and such. Mm-hmm. So I think that using the title doctor to qualify yourself in spaces when you don't have a doctorate is itself a disqualification, mm-hmm. right? That's one thing. On the flip side of that, again, like I said earlier, you don't need a doctorate to practice, to be a licensed clinical therapist. That some of the best therapists that I know, don't have doctorates. They have the skill, they have a master's, they're licensed, they are accountable to a board, to an ethics board. Mm-hmm. That's what the requirement is, right? And if you are not subject to that level of accountability and continuing education in the field, then you're not qualified. And I think I think our conversations are so rooted in whether or not she's, all these other things. That's the distraction. And she's running around going viral off of it. And now she's got the opportunity to prove that she can say something smart. That's the other problem with the internet, right? Is there are a bunch of people running around saying smart things, mm-hmm. but either don't have character or the resources to actually provide real, mm-hmm. real help to a community. So she's discredited in my book because why call yourself a doctor if you haven't done a dissertation or if you haven't, gone to medical mm-hmm. school?
It's corny. And also, I also don't think she's accountable to any board either. Like there's no legal accountability at all for her right now. And she's even, I think I read, I don't want to quote her, but I think I read her say something like, it doesn't stop her money. That is the worst thing you can say, because are you helping people, or are you just trying to run it up? You trying to run up a bag, or are you really trying to help your community? Because what you claim, your brand, your image claims that you're trying to help the community. You're supposed to be a therapist, right? So why are we even talking about money?
So go get the skills.
Yeah, like
go get the
you know what I'm saying? You can afford to go to school now, babe. If before you couldn't, you can afford to go to school now and get that PhD. So nobody can discredit you. Like, she's going around and everybody's like, just produce the document. And she's like, I don't have to, because what'd she say? She said something about God, and this you Christians. But anyways, and it's just like, damn, like, you're not helping your case. She's a smart lady, but saying that you don't have to produce your doctorate's degree because you serve God and not the people that are questioning you. That's such a Christian thing to say.
That's not a Christian thing to say. That's an ignorant thing to say.
Christians.
Ignorance, right, has run amok in the church. That's the problem. Sorry.
I don't want to say I'm conflicted, because I do feel like if you do not have those accreditations, don't speak on it at all.
Right.
My wife is actually a clinician, so she's a clinical therapist.
Right.
So I just know everything she's had to do. I think she still has about like 2,000 hours to the board to get her actual, I think it's called LM.
Yeah.
LM something.
LMSW.
Yeah, LMSW. Yeah. So, so to me, it's like, if that's not your mission, you know what I'm saying? Like, I agree. It completely discredits everything you're saying.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is sometimes, like you said, I do feel like she does make sense. So it's kind of like,
Yo, a broke clap is.
I think you was gonna say that. You said it right.
You real.
Right.
That's very real. You know what I'm saying? But I do think she makes some sense, and it's unfortunate because, like you said, there are people who are like hanging on the things that she's saying, and like with no accountability to.
Especially in a society where everyone's running around using terms like, "Oh, you gaslit me," or "That triggered me." Like, we keep using these like clinical terms, right? And people are throwing it around in relationships. These clinical terms have clinical meanings,
for sure.
And so when you just have talking heads going around using clinical terms, calling themselves doctor, they're not actually providing real help.
I agree.
So, but salute to your partner on the journey, because that's what it's about.
For sure. For sure.
She's an e-therapist. E-therapist. What else could we call her?
Can't even say that.
I would not call her.
Not even a therapist.
I wouldn't call her.
We're not gonna be hanging up the phone on Dr. quote unquote Cheyenne Bryant.